gonna put in the microphone. Don't do this to me now. Porfa. Ça marche? Okay, we're gonna start. Yeah, definitely lipstick on the teeth. Bonjour à toutes et à tous et bienvenue à Blabla Katie. My name is Katie and today we're going to blah blah about the difference between U and OU in French. So if you don't know the difference between these two sounds, or if you do know that there is a difference but you can't really hear it or you can't produce it, don't worry, that's exactly what this video is for. I'm going to go over both listening for the differences as well as how to actually pronounce OU and U in French. But first I want to talk with you about something that is super exciting. If you watched my last video all the way to the end, you heard me say I'm actually trying to hit my first 10 subscribers in a month. Literally within less than a day, I had 18 subscribers. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who is liking and watching and subscribing and supporting. I really appreciate it. And I hope that I can keep providing content for you that you do find to be valuable. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw that I actually put up a poll a few days ago. If you don't follow me on Instagram, I'll put the link down in the description box. But as a sort of thanks, I asked you what you would want to see in my next video. And the winner was tell a cringe story from the time you were in France or something that has to do with French. Close behind it was teach useful phrases that they don't teach you in school. Unfortunately, only a few people voted for the translation of the Justin Bieber song. It's fine. So I'm super excited to share this cringe story with you. Stick around until the end for that if you want to see it. Again, merci, merci, merci beaucoup for your support, and I hope you enjoy this video. Of course, we're going to start with some pre-assessment activities to make sure you have something to track your progress throughout the video and beyond. The first pre-assessment is going to give you a baseline for your listening comprehension between OU and U. You should see two words on the screen that are pronounced differently. One has the OU sound, the other has the U sound, and I'm just going to say one of these words. It's your job to decide which one you think that I'm saying. Cou. Cou. Bouche, bouche, dessus, dessus, rousse, rousse, vue, vue. Alright, so you're going to be doing the same activity at the end of the video. Hold on to your answers. We'll see if anything changes or if anything becomes easier for you. When it comes to distinguishing between OU and U, hearing only one of these sounds at a time isn't really going to help you figure out how to identify which is which. It's actually much better for you to take two words that are exactly the same, or at least that sound exactly the same, except for these two sounds. For example, if you take the word vous, which is the formal word for you, as well as the plural word. So if there's more than one person that you're addressing, you would use vous. And then there's vu, vu. Vu is the past participle for to see. So this means if you were to say, for example, I saw, vu would be part of that construction. You can hear the difference between the two if you put them in close proximity. Vous, vu. Vous, vu. Do you hear? And if you were to put this into a short sentence, vous avez vu. Vous avez vu les nouvelles? Vous avez vu les nouvelles? Another example is nous, nu. Nous, nu. Nous is the subject pronoun for we. It can also be certain object pronouns, but that's kind of complicated. I'm sure we'll get to that in later videos. And nu is the adjective for naked. Nous sommes nus. We are naked. Nous sommes nus. If you don't hear the difference, go back and keep rewinding and pressing play until you can register some sort of differentiation between the two. That's really the only way that it's going to help, because you need to train your ears to listen for the difference. Of course, depending on where you're at in French, you can also just pay attention to context clues. But if you don't know the meaning of these words and are just listening for the sound, then you really need to train your ears. Another example is bulle. Bulle, which means bubble, and boule. Boule, which is a ball. Bulle, boule. Bulle, boule. And an example sentence, la bulle est dans la boule. La bulle est dans la boule. Another example is loup, which means wolf. Loup. And the past participle for to read. Lu. Lu. Loup, lu. Loup, lu. Le loup a lu le livre. Le loup a lu le livre. And the last example I have for you for now is pouce, pouce, and puce. Puce. A puce is a flea. Une puce est sur mon pouce. Une puce est sur mon pouce. plus pouce. Voila. Once you're done rewinding and listening to that part of the video for as many times as you need, then we can move on to how to actually pronounce the U and the U, which is also probably going to help you differentiate when you listen for these sounds. Of course, we're going to start with another pre-assessment activity. Here are a few sentences that will have you mixing and matching the U and the U sound. You should record yourself if possible so that you can hear your progress later on, as well as any areas for improvement. Okay, don't panic. If that was a struggle for you, I promise you, you are not alone, and it is going to get better. I promise. Just make sure that you are practicing and actually talking out loud, because you can repeat this in your mind as much as you want, but if you're not moving your muscles, it's not going to stick. You're not going to get that muscle memory. Which brings me to my next point, which is how do we actually form these sounds? I think it's much easier to start with the U sound and then contrast the U against the U. The U sound is much easier for Anglophones to make. There's not much difficulty. You're literally just oohing. But if you look at the way that I'm pronouncing U, my mouth is really small. It's a tiny, tiny circle. But if you then pronounce the U, you'll see that the outside of my mouth doesn't really change that much. It kind of looks the same. What you have to pay attention to is actually what's going on in the inside of your mouth, namely with your tongue. First, what you should do to get familiar with the U sound is actually to make the U sound and pay attention to where your tongue is. Ooh. My tongue is kind of just hanging out. It's in midair. It's not really touching anything. And that's how it probably is with you too. If it's not, that's how it should be. Most likely you're not even thinking about it, but that is where your tongue is. With the U sound, you need to be very aware of your tongue placement. So you put the tongue on the bottom of your mouth and you need to push the tip of it against the back of your lower teeth. Ooh, with your tongue just hanging out. Tongue on the bottom, tip of the tongue touching the back of your lower teeth. If you're still having trouble with this and you're not really sure why your tongue isn't listening to what you're telling it to do, the other thing that you can try is making the letter E. Pay attention to where your tongue is there, and you can feel it in the space where it's supposed to be with the French U. On the bottom, with the tip of the tongue touching the back of your lower teeth. Something you can do is pronounce the E, and then keep your tongue exactly where it is, but move your mouth into an U sound. That's exactly what it is. You see? So go ahead, give that a couple of seconds, pause the video if you need to, but that is really the best way to train your mouth to make the U sound and differentiate it from U. If you're still new to the U sound, I don't recommend that you flip back and forth between U and U. With listening comprehension, that's very helpful to help train your ear between the differences. But when you're speaking, what I recommend instead is really getting down the isolated U sound and then taking every consonant in the alphabet and pronouncing it with that, one by one. So here we go. I, U, du, Q, du, Fu, gu. H doesn't really count. We'll talk about that in future videos, but you get the gist. Go all the way through the alphabet and practice every single sound with the U so that your mouth will not only be used to forming the isolated sound, but in conjunction with consonants as well. It's only when you're comfortable making this sound that you should then try to practice by pronouncing the U and the U sounds consecutively. Bu, du, ku, ku. You see? There is something I want to touch on with the U sound, and this kind of brings us back to our best friend, the French R. If you are still having trouble with just the R on its own, highly recommend that you go check out my last video to get that down first, and then move on to the combination of UR. The only reason why this is so hard is because it's two letters that Anglophones are not used to producing one after the other. So when you go down the alphabet with all of the consonants, make sure that you're practicing RU like this. Rue, rue. I know it sounds really weird, but it's French. So again, make sure that you rewind, press play, practice, record yourself as much as you can. With all that being said, we're now going to jump back into the same activities that you completed during your pre-assessments. We'll start with the listening comprehension first. It's going to be the exact same recording. Cou, cou, bouche, bouche, dessus, dessus, rousse, rousse, vue, vue, Before moving on to the next activity, which is when you produce the sounds on your own, I do want to let you know that I'm not going to be giving you the responses to this first activity in the video. Instead, you should put your answers in the comments down below, and this is because I want to give you individualized feedback, and I also want to see if there are any errors that are creeping up that I need to focus on in future videos. So definitely put your answers in the comments down below, and I will get to them as soon as I can. Okay, now on to the speaking activity. These are going to be the same sentences. Make sure you record yourself, and for this section, I will be giving you the French pronunciation in just a few seconds. Le toutou porte son tutu. J'ai une bûche dans la bouche. Vous voulez une poule? Pourquoi on est pur? Hier, il a plu. J'ai vu la pluie. Faites attention les gars, the word une is different from un. Of course, for now the focus is on une, which is using the U sound, but if you're still having difficulty with un, which is a nasal, and honestly for me a really annoying French word, that is something that I will be touching on for sure in a future video, so be sure to subscribe if you want to stick around for that. And speaking of subscribing, time for the cringe. I am going to rapid fire talk to you about a time when I was teaching English in France. This was beginning of 2018. This is the one I've decided on. At the time, I was living in my own apartment, but it was at the base of my landlord and landlady's house. I ended up leaving for like a 2-week vacation. I was with my partner at the time. We were all over Europe, but what happened was we ended up going back to our respective homes with little critters, bed bugs. This wasn't something I realized until I woke up maybe like 3 days in a row with bites up and down my arm. When I would scratch them, it was this horrible burning sensation. And then one day my partner texted me and said, "Are you getting a rash?" Something clicked and I thought, oh la la, we have bed bugs. I immediately went to the family upstairs and I said, "Oh, I have bed bugs, I don't really know what to do." And the response that I got was, "Well, you need proof first." At this point, I had a bite on my eyelid. I couldn't really open my eye. And for me, I'm like, what more proof do you need? Suffice it to say, I went on the hunt and I found them. To be fair, I found 2 and they were in my bed sheets, so that was not fun. And it was only the shell of them, so I think that they must have shed their skin or something. And after that, I had to tie up everything in my apartment. I had these huge garbage bags of things to either throw them out or to wash them. Having bed bugs was already horrible, and luckily they had another room sort of on the same floor that I was in, so I was able to sleep in a different room and get a couple nights of sleep without any bites. But in the meantime, when everything was being washed, I wasn't thinking about what I would potentially need. So one day I ended up taking a shower, completely forgetting that I didn't have a towel. So my hair is sopping wet. The only thing I can do at this point is wring it out. And even then, you know, you get me. It's not really getting all of that water out. It's like 30 degrees out. My apartment isn't super heated. The water was cold. I'm cold. And then I realized, oh crap, I have to get to the school because I have a lesson I have to teach. So I tried to find my clothes and I realized all my clothes are in the wash right now. Luckily, somehow, I found a pair of jeans that did not fit. After a couple of months in France, suffice it to say, not many of my clothes fit me after that. And I ended up finding a sweatshirt to wear. So there I was in 30-degree weather, sopping wet hair, only a sweatshirt and jeans that didn't fit, riding my bike 15-20-ish minutes to the school. That was, you know, one of my lower points. And I get back to the apartment. At this point, I'm still sleeping in the other room and I'm told that I need to sleep in the bedroom that night, like the bedroom that had the bed bugs in it, because we don't know if the bed bugs are gone. And how are we supposed to know if they're gone unless somebody's in there for them to come out and bite? So yeah, luckily there were no bed bugs left, it was okay. But for probably 3 nights, I was really freaked out because I just kept thinking, oh, what if they're coming tonight? It was a lot. It was definitely a lot. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that story. I'm sure it made you feel creepy crawly and stuff. If there's anything else that you want to know about my time in France, more specific or any other cringy stories that I definitely have, let me know in the comments or DM me on Instagram. Again, I will put the link in the description box below. Of course, if you got any value out of this video, please do give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And that's all for now. À la prochaine!